Yeah.
All right, welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Shout out to our technology team for getting our live stream back up and running. All right, I'd like to start this morning with some introductions, and I'll share a fun fact, and that is that today is National Dark Chocolate Day and also National Baked Alaska Day. So I see a theme, and I would like you each to introduce yourself, your agency, and your favorite dessert, sticking with that theme. So how about Magistrate Foley? Would you like to start?
Can I only pick one favorite dessert?
A favorite. How about that?
I'm Magistrate Carolyn Foley. I'm with Allen Superior Court. And I guess my favorite dessert would be a cake called Death by Chocolate at one of our restaurants up in Fort Wayne. It will give you the caloric intake for the entire week, but it is amazing.
I'm Nicole Phillips with Bartholomew County Juvenile Probation, and my favorite dessert is creme brulee.
I wish I'd gone last. Terry Decker, Executive Director of the Division of Youth Services for Department of Corrections. You know, I'd have to say anything sweet, but I think I'm going to go with homemade cherry pie. With a scoop of ice cream. Sprinkles.
With sprinkles. Cirilla Blackman, Executive Director, DMHA, Mental Health and Wellness, and my favorite dessert is tiramisu, among others.
I'm Shannon Chambers. I'm with Johnson County, and my favorite dessert is cheesecake.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Weaver. I'm the Director of Youth Justice and JDAI at the Indiana Office of Court Services. And my favorite dessert is blackberry cobbler with vanilla bean ice cream and/or cream.
All right.
Ryan King, Ripley Circuit Court, anything cheesecake.
I'm Dana Kenworthy, Court of Appeals, and I love molten chocolate cake.
Leslie Dunn, Deputy Director of Children and Families Division at Indiana Office of Court Services. I would probably say German chocolate cake.
Our Fairchild Executive Director of the Children's Commission, and I'm going to go with the warm apple pie with some French vanilla ice cream and a second cup of coffee.
Well, I'm Darren Dolahanty. I'm untethered. I don't have an agency. I'm not apologizing for that. I don't think you can beat the lemon dessert bars we have at the judicial conferences with the sprinkling of powdered sugar on top.
Hi, Joel Wenicky, Indiana Public Defender Counsel, and I liked Judge King's answer, Nancy's answer. But I'm a simple man too. Reese cups are fine too, if you can't get a real dessert.
Sarah Sailors, Department of Child Services. I'm going to say pecan pie.
Matt Alsma, IU School Medicine professor there. Nice to see you all. And is beer a dessert?
Why not?
I like chocolate.
Not chocolate.
Devin McDonald, Executive Director at the Criminal Justice Institute. I love a good key lime pie.
Dave Graham, typically Superior Court 3, and have some chocolate peanut butter no-bake cookies. Because you don't have to.
Stephen Dacco, Director of School Safety with Indiana Department of Education. I was going to say creme brulee, but I'll go bananas foster instead. I think there's a fire for desserts.
I'm sorry. Okay. Reminder for everyone to speak into the microphone so that our live stream folks can hear. Thank you, Leslie. Our first action item on the agenda is, Magistrate Richeson's joined us.
Well,
hello.
I'm Amy Richardson. I'm the magistrate for the Huntington Circuit and Superior Courts. And I caught on it was favorite dessert, and I'm just about anything lemon flavored.
All right. So I've learned today I have something in common with every one of you. All right, you've got draft minutes in your packet. If you have reviewed those, are there any edits, need for changes? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Thank you, Magistrate Foley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I think I saw Devin's hand go up, so I'll give you the second, Devin. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Now we'll move into the grants update. Devin?
So do you want me just to do the whole working group and grants update at the same time?
Why not?
Okay.
That's logical.
So,
Mhm.
we did get round one of grants out. They're currently in the budget review and contracting process now. In total, we had, one second, about 32 different programs that were funded across the 3 different funding streams. As you'll remember, there's 3 different funding streams: the community alternatives, the behavioral health, the diversion, and the I'm sorry, that was all 3 of them. Across all of them, the diversion grants were the ones that we received the most applications for both program and planning grants. That particular program, or that particular fund, we awarded 8 programmatic grants and 9 planning grants. About $630,000 worth of programmatic grants and $180,000 worth of planning grants. Community alternatives, we had 4 programmatic grants for about $382,000, 5 planning grants for about $100,000. On the behavioral health grants, we had 6 programs for just under $1 million, about $955,000. With that, good things hopefully come from those, in particular the planning grants. We did have several grants where folks applied that were just not allowable. We had one, I believe, was for the community alternatives from a county where they actually wanted to hire detention officers. Kind of seems counterintuitive, but obviously we did not award that one. So there were a few others and other things along the line. Leslie sent out this morning a couple things in your packets that you have, a timeline, some information about kind of successes and challenges that were faced throughout the whole process. And then as well as the actual list of grants with the amounts and things like that. So if you have questions on those particular grants, probably just email me those questions that you have. I'll be happy to answer those. That way we're not going through each individual one through this, save a little bit of time. But the packet or the timeline that you have is kind of tentative. I've got a couple things that I'd like to talk with Judge Kenworthy about that may impact the timeline for this a little bit. But I can tell you there will be another round of grants that will open at some point in time in March. Probably going to be doing those probably quarterly as we move forward, in particular with the planning grants and hoping to get programmatic applications from the folks that had been awarded planning grants. So you can see that as we go through. I'm just going to steal Mark's thunder a little bit. One of the challenges that we did see with these grants and some of the feedback that we did have, and we spoke about it, I believe, at the last meeting, was the ability to advance funds. That language, and I spoke to it last time, but when it comes to state funds, truly the only way you can actually legally advance funds is if the statute specifically allows for it. So Representative McNamara was kind enough to add that language into my agency bill, along with a bunch of other stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with CJI or any of these grants, but neither here nor there. And so that language did go through. It did get caught and got recommitted to Ways and Means. I was able to have a meeting with Representative Thompson last week. He had some I'll be honest with you and just candid, pretty serious reservations about adding that language in. He actually had an amendment ready to file that would take that out of the bill. He was not very happy with that language, but we did talk about it. He'd never really had much information on CJI or what we do. I let him know about our grant processes, in particular our compliance monitoring work that we do, which is probably our least favorable aspect of the grant world that we do. No one really likes the compliance monitors, but they're there for a reason. And that actually made him comfortable enough to keep the language in the bill. However, what he did do was he sunsetted it at the end of the biennium. So with that, though, they did make it effective upon passage instead of July 1. So theoretically, as long as nothing happens in the Senate and the bill comes back from the Senate the same way it did, it's on second reading today. It'll be third reading next week and then get sent to the Senate next week. as long as everything comes back normal, we'll be able to apply that to that next round of grants. So we'll include that in the webinar language just as a heads up. Obviously, we'll know more once the bill goes through the Senate and makes its way. I fully anticipate that it'll go to appropriations. I anticipate having a meeting with Senator Mishler on it as well, and go from there. So I think that will help maybe with some of these grants as we move forward to allow for those advances. Because that was again, we discussed it last time, but some of the feedback was that was a pretty big barrier to getting these programs going. So some updates to the solicitation itself will be coming, some updates to the webinars. We'll probably host multiple webinars again. I did have a meeting with one particular program in Southern Indiana that they wanted to submit an application. When they submitted the application, it got administratively denied because they never actually completed anything in the application, and they weren't sure why it got denied. And I'm like, well, because your application is just 100% blank. There was nothing in it. So I'm not really sure where that lack of communication came from, but we cleared that up with them. They were like, oh, okay, great. So they're fully anticipating on applying in the next round as well. So good things with that. So outside of that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the grants or the grant process or anything like that.
Questions from the group? I want to say thank you, Devin, for getting that language immediately. So immediately after the last meeting, he forwarded the language for the legislation, and we were able to forward that on. And thanks to Representative McNamara for taking that and running with it, because that in the last meeting was one of the largest barriers we discussed. So I think that's already a win in our column. So fingers crossed that will sail through the Senate as well, and we'll be able to remove that barrier for this next round of applications of the grants. I also want to just give kudos to the CJI team who reviewed 120-ish.
Roughly.
Yeah. Applications, and the members of this team that also reviewed applications and weighed in on those. And then the CJI board members also that voted on those. So that was a lot to wade through and digest. And I think we've got a feel for some of the challenges and some of the definitions and structure of the RFPs, the request for proposals that went out, so that hopefully this next round in March, the communities will have better information, better guidance on those applications. There's also discussion, correct me if I'm wrong, Devin, about taking those applications that weren't approved and giving specific feedback to those communities so that they can tweak those issues in those applications and turn those around pretty quickly to resubmit. So, and also great news that the Criminal Justice Institute's willing to provide quarterly rolling applications, which I think will provide communities lots of opportunity to apply. So anything more, Devin?
No, nothing else. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the grants or the process? Okay. All right. And the timeline, there was an emailed timeline. I think that's maybe edited a little bit, but I think that generally looks like a really good timeline. So webinars would occur weekly during March, the month when the RFPs are open for applications, so that hopefully the community agencies can get their questions answered during that month-long period. All right, Mark, do you want to clean up on the legislative update?
All right, well, yeah, as Devin shared, I mean, the majority of what's going on with YJOC right now is 1194, so I think he summarized that just fine. Of course, I'll note that the role of the Children's Commission on YJOC and was approved by the full commission is that we can provide overarching legislative support for initiatives related to the YJLC. So think of that moving forward too. If your group encounters something that could use that component, that's a place where we are happy to get involved. And also things like administrative policy change. We can look at routing that through the commission, get a few more channels of endorsement on that and keep that moving strong. So that's a very important component that we can add that not everybody here has the individual capacity to, but we're happy to do that. Of course, we'll keep watching 1194 as it goes through. We send letters of support over to Thompson and talk to some of the staff on that too. Just make sure the same, we're all on the same page here. Let's keep this moving. Probably do some of that on the second half. We'll see how well it behaves over there, but Yeah, it's up for seconds today, no amendments filed, so we're smooth on the halfway point.
And thanks to Mark for being willing at moment's notice to jump in and talk with legislators or go to hearings. So he did that, I think, on 2 days' notice last time. So appreciate that. That's not something necessarily that those of you around the table can do. And Mark has a background and experience in the legislative process. So he's a real key member of our team here. Any questions for Mark? All right, moving on to work groups. I've been meeting with chairs, co-chairs of the meetings, and trying to fill slots that are open. And so we've had some exciting developments in the area of those chair positions that have been vacated. First is Magistrate Foley, who did such a wonderful job working herself out of a job on her other committee. She agreed to co-chair a different group, so she has moved over and will be working with Terry on the transitional services. My goal in trying to move chairs around or select chairs is to choose 2 people who complement one another really well. And so the existing chairs, I asked questions like, what would be the personality type that would do all those things you like least, you know? Or what are the things that are most challenging for you? And so hopefully that's what these teams look like. And I see Terry and Magistrate Foley smiling. So hopefully that's a good match there. Good. The other real coup of the day, I think, is Judge Dolahanty has indicated that he's untethered. He retired officially yesterday, and yet here he is today, showing up for his first official day of retirement. He has graciously agreed to co-chair our behavioral health work group along with Cirilla. So I think this is another dream team in the making here, and really excited about that. I know Cirilla was very excited. Judge Dolahanty, I heard from Sherry, his wife, yesterday that he's excited about this. So good things on the horizon. And I saw Sherry earlier, but I want to say thanks to her for sharing her hubby and his retirement with us. And we are working on a co-chair. We have a good person in mind for screening and assessment along with Shannon, but that's not official yet, so I won't announce that one. Membership, some of you have indicated there are agencies or disciplines that are not represented on your work groups, and so we'll be working through trying to fill those gaps. So I would ask that each of you chairs, if you identify a discipline or a person that's missing from your group, let me know that. The process for YJOC and the work groups is that the chair of the YJOC has to approve the chairs and members. So just communicate that, and we'll make sure that all of the disciplines are equally balanced on each of the work groups. I do want to also mention, as to membership, we have a volunteer. Magistrate Richardson has graciously volunteered. Did you know this, Magistrate Richardson?
Was it my email to Tracy? Or
Yes,
something?
yes,
Okay, yes, I was.
Yeah. So she's volunteered to serve on the diversion work group. So we're thrilled to have her move on to the diversion work group as well. We would ask that you, each of the chairs, finalize membership of your work group by February 16th, and then work with your staff representative, IOCS staff representative, to get that list changed in Teams so everyone knows who is on each of the work groups, and we can communicate that way through Teams. All right. Another just idea for the work groups that I would throw out is that if there is an issue or a process that you think it would be beneficial to bring someone to the full YJOC group meeting to present, because maybe there's not clear understanding across the board, let me know that as well, so we could use some full committee meeting time for those presentations. If you want to have those presentations in your work group and see if that would be beneficial, that's perfectly fine too. But I do think there are some things that affect all of the work groups, and it may be a good idea to bring to this team so that everyone's on the same page and understands the roles and responsibilities of different agencies, the processes of different agencies, and how the puzzle pieces fit together. What I'm finding is in my meetings with the chairs is that there are a lot of moving pieces and parts to this project, and so we need to get our head around all of that, especially the theme lines that run through all of our work groups. All right. Meeting schedule, I would ask that the work groups, and I think this is logical, just plan to meet between the full YJOC meetings, so you'll have time in between those. And I also received some feedback from several of the work group chairs that it would be helpful to have a chairs meeting in between, maybe quarterly, so that the chairs are not siloed, or the work groups are not siloed and not understanding what the other work groups are doing. So we'll be working to get those scheduled. Let us know, chairs, if you prefer that those be in person or by Teams or Zoom. I am fine either way. I like meeting in person face to face, but also I don't want to cause additional drive time, and I want to be respectful of everyone who's volunteered their time for this group. All right, Leslie, have I missed anything on the logistics of work groups? All right, so updates. We'll start with updates and go down the list. I would ask that if you have met, share an update on what you're working on currently, what you've discussed. If you haven't met, let us know your plans for meeting and the agenda items you have in mind for that. So we'll start with Dr. Alsma on the data group.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nice to see you all. We did not meet. We were slated to meet, but we canceled due to inclement weather. So we are going to be meeting on February 13, so less than 2 weeks is going to be our first meeting. So in terms of folks in our committee, everyone has re-upped except for one person that left the state, went to a private agency, felt like it wasn't quite within her purview. So we're excited to have our dream team back. I don't think there were any folks that we really needed at the table, but we're open to what that might look like. So our plan for our first meeting now in this new phase is to go over the plan. It's been a bit since we've looked at it, so really think through what we said we were going to do. And then obviously with us as the data committee, we really want to understand data quality. We're not quite there with resources, so there's several ongoing efforts that we want to review. So JDI has been focusing on case processing, so have Nancy and Lisa present on what that's looked like from their end in terms of these 5 points in case processing, data quality, how that looks. And then we've been working with 8 counties across the state, Columbus is one of them, on a data linking project. So we're going to present some of that data, and it goes from very early diversion all the way through treatment completion. So kind of following youth across that whole spectrum. So we presented some of those data elements. And if anyone else is interested in that, we can give an overview of some of that work. So that's where we're going to be starting, and then really thinking through how we can move this agenda forward in terms of data quality. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, one little quick note, so I'm sure we'll talk about this at the chairs meeting. Many of the committees here are looking at data as well, right? It's fundamental. So let's just stay in touch, and as you're looking at data and as we're looking at data and have a back and forth about data needs and quality, I think it's going to be really important to stay in touch. And we have the same issue with JDAI, right? We get requests and there's a data committee review. So I think that's going to be an ongoing talking point to make sure that we're on the same page with that.
All right. Questions for Dr. Alsma?
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have screening and assessment. So Shannon, would you like to give that report?
Sure, we have not met yet. Again, we were supposed to meet, and between weather and other things, it just hasn't happened. So we are meeting on February 16th. I had 5 of my committee not come back. They totally ignored me, so I must have done something really bad. I don't know.
I had to go to people's homes.
Oh, I didn't go that far, Dr. Osmond. I did lose my co-chair, as just Skinworthy said, so we are working on that right now. So we are planning on, we have invited IOCS's education committee to come and meet with us at our first meeting, because that was a lot of our planning is how do we educate everybody. across the board, as far as conferences, whether it be online trainings, but how do we reach everybody? So we've invited the education committee to come and help us brainstorm how we can all do that. So that's kind of our big thing to move forward and get the information out.
Questions for Shannon? All right, so we have behavioral health up next, and we have Cirilla and Judge Dolahanty.
See, I see how this relationship is going to work. We had an internal meeting just as an introduction for my co-chair. Very excited to get him up to speed. We also lost several members of our initial group due to getting new jobs, leaving out of state, and not being the right person, feeling like they weren't the right person to fill the position. So we really spent time going over who's missing and what do we need. And so we have prepared a tentative list that we're going to be giving to you of
Perfect.
individuals that we would like to have join our group. Okay. Did I miss anything?
No, that's what we covered. Thank you.
All right, is there a meeting scheduled yet? Are you working on that?
We're working on that. We want to get that membership nailed down
Makes
first,
sense.
and
Yep.
then we'll send out and then look at, we did talk about meeting logistics as well, given it's kind of hard to get rooms scheduled here at the government center. So, yes.
Okay. Any questions? All right, we are zooming today on this meeting agenda. Next group, diversion. So I think Tracy could not be here, so Megan will give the update.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Horton. I am the supervisor for the Youth Justice Strategist team at the Indiana Office of Court Services and the co-chair for the diversion work group. Tracy, our chair, is on vacation. We have not met yet. Our meeting is scheduled for next week on Wednesday, February 7th. Most of our members did express interest in coming back, but we did have a couple that have stepped away due to just not having the time to commit. So we have a couple stakeholder groups that we do need to identify new members to fill that role. For next steps, we haven't met yet, but we did identify a few pretty concrete next steps that we wanted to work on when we wrapped our work last year. And we still think these are pretty relevant, so we anticipate we'll move forward with those. I think we talked about a couple of these. Tracy mentioned them at the last meeting, but a resource guide for developing new diversion programs. We think that's probably where we want to get started, especially with new grant funding opportunities coming out, making sure that counties have some kind of concrete guidance in terms of what they may want to do if they're starting a new program, taking our best practice recommendations and putting those into something a little more practical for counties to use. Also, continuing looking at programs around the state. We want to continue kind of investigating what counties are doing and being able to lift those up in some sort of dashboard or clearinghouse or some sort of resource as counties are looking to implement new programming, seeing what's happening and also what's working. We put some high level programs in our report, but we haven't had a chance to really dig into that. So that's also something we want to work on. And then to whatever degree it makes sense, we also wanted to support in any outreach around the grants, particularly obviously the diversion grant, if there's a need for that, for different stakeholder groups, whatever our work group can do in collaboration with the grants group to make sure information gets out to who it needs to get out to. That's all I have.
Yeah, it's not a hard question.
Good.
No, but I think one thing that we hear from counties often is for youth diverted that need services, how to pay for those services if they're not on probation. So I don't know if that's an element of the best practices or if you can lift up, because every county kind of tries to figure out on their own. There's some really great ways to solve that, but it depends on the county. So yeah, I don't know if that came up in best practices, but it might be good to think through that element too.
No, that's helpful. That specifically didn't come up, but I know we certainly circled around that. So that'll be something we'll keep in mind as we're putting that together, that resource guide. And maybe some examples of how counties are doing this would be helpful so they can connect with those counties and figure out how it might work for them. Yep. Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you. All right, next up, transitional services, our new dream team of Terry and Magistrate Foley.
We are. Wow. We hope we don't disappoint. Well, we walked through 10 feet of snow to get our meeting. I'm not quite sure what was the problem there. My folks are dedicated. We haven't had our first meeting. What a passionate group of, passionate group of people. Most of them returned. We had a few that said, were maybes, but they all showed up. So did you go to their house? Because I did not go to their house, so I don't know what they were afraid of, but they all showed up. I lost a co-chair and gained a co-chair that's absolutely fabulous. I love working with Magistrate Foley already. We're just into it. I always want to say thanks to my Office of Court Services group. We could not do this without them. So big kudos to them. We have a lot of work to do. We take every minute of our time that we set, almost down to the very last minute, quite honestly. So we're working on a survey. Talked to Sarah about adding David Reed because we have questions about service standards through DCS. I met with 211. We're talking about resources, the things you learn when you go talk to people. It's absolutely amazing. So we have a lot going on and we have our next meeting scheduled already because that's just kind of people we are. We are overachievers. Yeah, we're excited. So.
Our next meeting is March 7th, and we actually had a pretty extensive discussion at our meeting about the lack of information we have regarding current transitional services programs that are out there. So that is one of the pieces that we all think is really important at this point in time to start gathering that information. So if we're going to be looking at perhaps a best practices manual, something of that nature. So it's time to start gathering all of that information. So I think that's going to be our focus for the next few meetings.
Mm-hmm. Sounds excellent. Questions for this group? I've just got to mention that I had not met Terry before this experience, and we had a wonderful discussion. How many years at DOC, Terry?
I've met with DOC only 5.
And before that?
I've done this my entire life, and I am very old. 100 years.
I point that out because this is a difficult position. And Terry is so incredibly passionate after a lifetime in this position. And I think she's a unicorn. So I just wanted to say that, Terry, that I was so impressed talking with you. Anything else on transitional services? All right, grants we have chatted about. Do we want to circle back and say anything more about grants, Devin?
Sure. We have not met. I guess, pending some outcomes of the meeting that we have scheduled as the chairs. I think I have some logistical challenges with this that maybe some of the other groups don't, and that, there's some ethics that go into this work group, whereas others, and so having actual, for instance, Magistrate Foley, if Allen County wanted to provide submit a grant, couldn't really have them on the grant work group to help change the solicitation or things like that. So some different challenges. So I have some ideas that hopefully we can discuss, Judge Shine and I can discuss with you as we move forward. Once we get that, then I can schedule another meeting and move forward and do some more work with the work group.
Okay. All right, before we move into wrap up, this is crazy, 40 minutes in. I'd like to go around the table and just ask if there are specific things that you see as challenges that you think we need to tackle as a group. And so I'll just throw that out, very broad question. Again, trying to get my head around the moving pieces and parts and what exactly we need to look at. What exactly do we need to know about in order to set priorities as a group? So yes, Judge Graham.
I don't know if anybody else has encountered this, but we've been trying to work with our law enforcement agencies, et cetera, for diversion of things, and had a little bit of pushback from one of our law enforcement agencies who made a valid point. what was law enforcement on that committee? I don't know if we have any members of law enforcement on our Justice
Great
Oversight
point.
Committee. And I thought, well, that's kind of a valid point. We're asking them to be part of the solution for some of our diversion.
Thank you. Feedback on that?
Great.
Okay, Ms. Kia?
Kind of picking off of what you said, as I listen to everybody, there are a lot of updates and a lot of powerful work, but I feel like we're missing community at the table. And we solved for that a little bit with the Youth and Family Committee that we had advising last year. And so part of my question is, like, what direction do you guys want them to take and roll in this? And are there spaces, you guys all mentioned that there's missing members. Are there spaces for them now to transition into some of that membership on your committees that you guys are working with? We went through this full year experience with them last year. They're very aware of the recommendations, made their own. Are there spaces where they can now kind of transition into some of these membership issues that I heard today? And then even amongst this group, I think we need some more folks at the table. It's a lot of us that are not as proximate to the issues. And we're guessing and we're pulling at straws and we don't have to. And so I would like to see a space created for more community on this, not just in a subcommittee, but actually here with us talking about these things. And again, if there's ways for the folks that were engaged in this work last year to roll onto some of these committees, I think they're all for it. And then if you guys can just lend some information to how do you want them to move forward? Is that a thing that needs to be continued? That kind of thing.
So logistically, we need to figure out funding. So there was funding up to this point through the report. And so that's a question that I have. And so I'm looking forward to talking with you, Kia, about that and getting my head around that logistical piece. So I agree. We need to have that experience, that voice of experience engaged in this policy discussion. And so looking forward to meeting with you about that.
Yes.
Any other input on Kia's point? Nancy?
Can I just add that even in the question that Kia raised, she said, what is your direction? And she's a full member of this group. And so thinking about how we are, those of us who are really close to system work, how we are welcoming those who maybe are not. And so you're a full member, Kia, so it's a we. And I just want to make that, I feel strongly about that.
Thank you, Nancy. Other input? Yes, Devin.
So, Judge King, I apologize. I'm going to throw you under the bus here for a second. It was a great comment actually in some conversation that we had following the last meeting. And he brought up a very valid point. Obviously, we have JDAI at the table. How do we distinguish these programs and this funding from JDAI initiatives? Not to use the word initiative twice, but it is. I think that may also be a barrier to some of this. And I know you mentioned it, Judge, last time. And so maybe we need to put our heads together a little bit on how we can, counties that are JDAI counties are doing some of this work and some of this stuff's already funded through other stuff. Or other forms of grants and whatnot. But how do we distinguish this from those programs? And how can we get those counties involved? Because, that's what, 75% of the juvenile population in the state. And if those counties don't apply, that's big chunks of money. They just sit there. So, you mentioned that. I kind of took it to heart and I'm trying to think of ways, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of stuck right now. So I think maybe as we move forward, that might be a good conversation we need to have, so we can see these dollars and see these programs, the different work groups, are there programs or things that you guys have identified that aren't funded at the local level? And that's the other thing with grants is that if they're already funded at the local level, I can't give them a grant. And so I think those are some issues that we need to tackle from the funding aspect of it. And so I am welcome to anything anyone has to offer on that, because I do think it's going to be an issue as we move down the road.
Judge King, anything to add on that?
Well, when you look at the JDAI model, they're funding whatever, or
90% of the youth or something, a pretty high figure, but you'll find that those are the population centers, which is incongruent with what we're here for. Because many of our, like the behavioral health grant that we actually received in Ripley County, one of the highest amounts, if not the highest, is designed for rural, so you can almost see where there's a little bit of a clash there as far as, the population that the JDAI has had success targeting. I mean, we're one of them. We are at JDA County and Ripley County, but then this legislation is very focused on rural, so for me, as a rural judge, I think it's wonderful because it provides the opportunity to get funding. As I was telling other members of the committee, that this is kind of different. I mean, you don't have that opportunity, in the rural areas very frequently to have the ability to get funding. And some of this is desperately needed. I mean, because there are hardly any mental health providers in our neck of the woods. Hardly any. We were very fortunate that Choice's emergency response team, CERT, is there. We already had a working relationship with them, so we were able to reach out and get someone on the request for proposals. But that's going to be probably atypical. And I'm thinking more on the behavioral health, because as a JDAI county, the diversion stuff we've already been discussing for 5 years, 6 years, and that's really where, and I think this goes to Kia's point, there's probably members that this is a very, very rural pointed legislation as I read it. How many rural members are in this room? I mean, that to me seems a little incongruent, because it's kind of like, well, I'm one of the only rural members, I drove an hour and a half, and the people we're trying to reach are, more rural population. And why is that? Well, if you live in Indianapolis, you can probably find a counselor. If you live in Houghton, Indiana, good luck. Your kid's going to get no help. Zero. And it is kind of sad. And, I see everybody's, a lot of affirmative head shakes. And how do we solve that? And that is the good part about this board, is because the folks here are trying to. I don't know where else that's being attempted in any other state, if that's being attempted. But that's what I think is novel about about all this legislation. But it also is very difficult, because what was the total amount granted out? Maybe 3.2 on the first round as
total? Yeah,
it was
roughly.
very small.
Yeah, about 3.2.
And I don't know, I know it was a quick turnaround, and that's probably number one problem. But how much is that how are we going to improve upon that substantially? I mean, 3.2 out of 60 million, we got a long ways to go, and it is disappointing, because are there $60 million worth of services that populations in Indiana need? Absolutely. So the question is, how can we get that to the people that really need it and need it? I don't want to be too wordy, but that's really kind of where we are. And I think it was Dr. Alsma that was talking about, the lack of providers that we have. I mean, that's number one. If you're sitting on a trial court bench today, that's going to come up on the CHINS docket, the delinquency docket, the family law docket, the criminal docket, every single one of them. I mean, and it makes you almost feel somewhat helpless when children need services and you can't even get it to them. I mean, that's the number one problem we have in this community named the state of Indiana, probably. Now, I'm hoping it might be different in a population center. I don't know if it is, in Indianapolis, in Bloomington, in South Bend. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I would not be the guy to ask. but I know it looks like zero in most, and I don't even know that we are the most rural, but we are looking to provide services to the children. And on the request for proposal, we got one applicant, when for our grant. I mean, it was a great one, and we probably only got that person is because we had a working relationship with them, which I think goes to your point, Devin, from last meeting, was the infrastructure. If you don't have those connections, I don't know what the solution to that is, especially since right now, I don't know where you can find them, Mark. And that is the biggest issue with trying to reach out and get everyone on board. And then if you are a small county judge, I'm very fortunate, probably because of JDAI, because they have helped us with our infrastructure. I do have a good CPO. I do have a good coordinator from JDAI days that assist, or I wouldn't even say assist. They do all the heavy lifting, where you can get these grants written. But if you don't have that, if that's step 1 and 2 and 3, maybe, how do you get to step 4? Because I can speak for most of the small county judges. We don't have time to write a grant that looks like the grant that we put forward. I mean, if I had to do that on my own, there ain't no way, right? I mean, and I don't think of any other trial court judge would say, yeah, I got this. They're very detailed. So that's my 2 cents. I don't have the answers. I wish I did, but certainly when I sit here right now, I have a lot of questions. I mean, we've got 6 subparagraphs or 6 groups. What is the goal of each group?
Mm-hmm.
To me, we ought to be like, okay, here's our goal. We're laser focused on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we meet as a group, this is how we're going to get, to the next level. What is the goal of the behavioral health group? I would think it's probably to provide behavioral health services to everyone in the state of Indiana through some sort of funding. What is the goal of the diversion group? And maybe, and I'm also the new guy, because maybe you already went through all this. Maybe everybody's got all this. But for purposes of this meeting, I think that there's a lot. I have way more questions than I know what to do with right now. So that's my thoughts on it.
So I said this in the last meeting, and I'll say it again. This is why Judge King is here. So we recognized early on that the rural membership was lacking. And so Magistrate Richardson and Judge King are here to represent those communities and to ask these hard questions. And you can also see that he was a strategic pick because he's a doer. And so we're going to take that report of recommendations and shift our focus into the action planning. And so that's what I look to see from each of the work groups in the next meeting, is that prioritization of action steps moving forward. And in the chairs meeting, coordinating those so we're not duplicating those among the work groups. Magistrate
Not just
Richardson.
because I'm the only other rural person, but something I think of, we always heard this phrase, build it and they will come. I'm not convinced of that with the population that we serve.
Mhm.
I'm seeing a lot of barriers to people even wanting to participate. There's a lot of apprehension. So I think if we can just all be mindful too about how we engage parents, especially. I struggle more to engage parents than I do the children. I feel like I have to strong arm and force parents to see the benefit of the services that are available, even if they are limited. And so I would love, as we're structuring all of this, to just keep that in mind, because we can come up with great programs and we can come up with a lot of funding, but if we don't have the parents willing to engage in it, it's all for naught. And that's where in a rural community, I feel like we do have, not a spoil of riches, but we do have more resources. It's just people aren't willing to utilize the resources, and they are free of charge. And I still can't get people to see the value in the services, and I can't get them to see the value in changing their choices and behaviors and beliefs to better their children. That's a real struggle. So if we can try and have that piece always in the forefront of our minds about how do we engage parents in what we're trying to do. Maybe we could see a shift that would be really beneficial once we're able to develop these programs, that we actually have people who want to participate, not that are forced to participate.
So I'm already seeing a puzzle piece that might be fitting together at the end of this table. So we'll chat about that, Kia and Magistrate Richardson. Yeah, I think we've got some folks who are willing to push up their sleeves on this one. Cirilla.
First, I want to say I want to be part of the conversation regarding funding because we help support through court services to pay our family and youth to participate. And I know from our committee for behavioral health, we specifically earmarked how important parental engagement is. And it's just not the kid being pointed out solely, it's the whole family you have to work with. And so strategies around that. Then there's a system issue. We meet monthly as a child state agency collaboration. And one of the things we're doing is having each agency look at what are you funding and what programs are you funding. So hopefully when we get everyone to present, we can bring that information back, because a lot of times we don't know what DCS programs in what areas have prevention services, or they don't know what we're funding through our discretionary grants. We had DWD talk about their JAG program, and there was a lot of information I didn't know that was new to me as well. So I think talking about that, and I think a lot of local communities receive funding, they don't always share the monies they receive. So I think we can help shed light on that and really be able to gauge where the gaps are.
Funding is a big question mark as I go through this, because I know there are different streams. And I think that the trend now is braided funding. And so thinking about these grant applications, I think there were some counties who thought they could only apply for one of the three. And so one county, I won't name them, but they were very strategic. They used all three streams of funding to fund one program. So they took different aspects of it and got funding for each part of that program. And so I thought that was really strategic and smart of that county, and they were funded on all three. So I think that's one option, to look at complementary funding. Those existing JDAI counties, if there are services that aren't funded, if there are complementary aspects of that programming, then perhaps they could get funding through this source. And then also the smaller communities. What about pooling resources? So, counties that are close together could hold hands and say, we'd like this funding ×2 from this provider to serve both counties. I don't believe there's any barrier to that. I haven't thrown that to Devin yet, but I don't see there would be any barrier to smaller counties pooling resources. And it may be an infrastructure thing, technology for telehealth, that sort of thing. But Devin, do you want to weigh on that?
No, we actually encourage that heavily for smaller counties that don't have resources. And we knew that regional approach would probably be the only way some of these counties would or could apply.
And the other idea that was thrown out at the last meeting is the data issue. So does it make sense to fund 92 counties to individually create a spreadsheet of data? Or would it make sense to have one central hub roll out a pilot that can then be replicated in the other counties? And so would it make sense for a chunk of funding to go to the front end to create that statewide data system that actually talks to one another and is integrated? So that's another just idea. I love the passion that's at this table, and I just stand up here thinking, do you know that this group in this room can change the world for Indiana kids? We can. I believe that we can. So I'm super excited about this. Devin.
Question. Thank you, by the way. I know Kia brought some of this stuff to light through your work group that you did, and when we had the report and everything last year. But Magistrate Richardson, as you talk about that, I guess the question in my mind is ultimately like, what is it that these parents are saying that they don't want to get involved? What are the?
You want to know?
I do. Yeah, because I mean, if it's sorry, not to cut you off, but if it's something, if it's funding, like I know we paid with Kia's group, we get, you guys, was part of your contract, you were able to provide gift cards or something, I forget exactly what, all food and things like that. I know that that's not always a carrot. And so I am anxious, or not anxious, I guess is probably, well, maybe both actually. I'm anxious maybe to the response, but I also am kind of want to know the response. And what is it? Is it just a lack of trust? Is it a fear that you're going to take my kids away? Is it, what are they saying that they can't or won't engage? And you can be very general.
It's not, I don't encounter as much fear that we're going to take children away in the delinquency area. It's more fear we won't take their children away. It's that they want us to raise their children and they're at a loss by the time they come to us. I frequently hear, what am I supposed to do? And I wish that that question would have been posed to others when the children were really young, as opposed to when they're now 14 and 15 in front of me, and there's been this dynamic established. But I've tried to encourage them that their question really is reflective upon what changes do they want to see. And when I ask, what changes do you want to see in your family? They often say, there's nothing wrong with my family, and they're insulted that I asked the question. So I see that as a barrier. I see just a recognition that there's a better way and a recognition that there is hope in the future for change. I think a lot of it is rooted in, they've been in this dynamic for so long that they've lost some hope that there really are services available that can change. But I also see that they want the kid to put in most of the effort, and they as parents don't want to put in the effort. They want us to have this magic residential facility that cures their child and then sends them back, and they're angelic and never cause a problem. And that's unrealistic, but that's what I'm running into to the delinquency. I would say the flip is the opposite, right? In the chins matters, then they're very fearful that we're going to take their children. And then that's more of a distrust. They don't want people in their home to really see what's going on, to then try and suggest changes because they're afraid if people really see what's going on, then we're going to take their children. That's my general sense. So it's almost competing perspectives depending upon how they and their children or their family have entered into the judicial system in front of me. Very short synopsis of what I'm seeing.
No, that's helpful. And thank you again to that. And I think, I mean, in this group, I think we have to tackle both of those because sometimes it is both, unfortunately. You know, I think about when you mentioned with the residential facility, I think, okay, you send your dog away to school to train them and you bring them home and they're great for a couple of weeks, but you don't reinforce that training on a daily basis. And what happens? Your dog jumps on the furniture, they jump on whoever knocks at the door, they're barking, they do everything else. And so, you know, you as the pet owner, I'm not equating children to pets. Let's just make that very clear right now. But you have to reinforce those behaviors. And so is it something where, and again, this makes it more challenging, I think, but with those parents, and we have to get them involved, and I get it, many of them have probably just thrown their hands up and said, my kid's just unsavable and they're bad and move on, and whatever that relationship is between the child and the parent. But I think that, and to that aspect though, is you almost have to, and I am going to equate this to the pets again. I mean, you almost have to, what can we do to get that parent in to train the parent on how to reinforce the training that their child just received, and reinforce the aspect of it that if you don't put in that work as a parent, you aren't going to see those changes. And there's so many things. I'll soapbox for 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds. And so many things that we see in this community with our children in these aspects that if the parents, where are the parents? Where are they? And what are they doing? My 10 seconds is up, but.
So I guess, go ahead. You go ahead. Well, I think, so we with Marion County maybe 5 years ago helped convene a group of parents that have been involved in the justice system. And they're like, we're here and we want help. and we're alone and we feel stigmatized and judged whenever we come to court. So I think just having their voice involved with probation, having the judges hear their voice was really powerful. And it's really led to some shifts within Marion County, and it's not enough. So they lifted up this idea of parent navigators. We've been through the system. It's really hard and horrible. Let us come alongside of other parents to show them how to make it through the system and help their young person. So I think this is a way to kind of help kind of bring their voices to solve some of these issues, because it's really difficult and they have a lot of solutions and want to be at the table. So it's hard though. It means there's training. It means being ready for those voices that have had generational difficulty within the system, and they're feeling that pressure every time they come into the system that they don't want to come back into. So I think it's all of these. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say is, for me as a probation officer, it was the same pushback, right? It was you telling me how to raise my children, you're taking away my rights because you're putting them on curfew. Well, that's not my curfew. It was a lot of you're asking these expectations, not understanding they don't have sometimes the capacity to do what we're asking of them. And half of the time, they don't think that anything is wrong. That is their norm. And so for us, it was a lot of language changing, right? It was them coming in and making these decisions for themselves, that us shifting the power back to them instead of us dictating what needed to happen. And instead of coming with the question of what changes, it's how do you find joy? And we start there. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's really hard to see joy when you're struggling, when you're hungry, when there's domestic violence, when there's all these other things. But when they start finding joy in the midst of things, when they start communicating together around that, you start to see those changes that we're hoping that happens. And then another part of it is making it worth their time. No, I'm not coming to your meeting when I have to be at work. I have other kids that I have childcare. That's part of what's happened with the Family Care Council that you're talking about, Dr. Osma, and our family engagement. We saw an increase in family participation by 62% by offering paid childcare. Simply just by offering childcare. Yes, we do give out the gift cards for gas and we feed them while they're there, but then we also model what should be happening in their homes. It's not just providing the instruction to them, inviting them to a program. It's us sitting down with their kids and we're coloring together, we're cooking together, because that's what we want to see happen at home, because we know the outcomes are different when we see those kind of behaviors, when the parents and children are bonding better, they're communicating better. But it's not as easy as just saying, we have a free program, please come and learn. They don't have the time. They don't know what they don't know. There needs to be a lot of language change and they have to be in on it from the beginning. So yes, we build it, but they need to be a part of that construction as well. And I think that's where a lot of this goes wrong. It's like we have the money, we have all of these great ideas, but nobody here is going to benefit from any of it. And that's why I'm saying they have to be here. They have to be telling us what they want, what they need. What they need might not be what we're funding. They might not need a family navigator. They might not need a counselor. They might need somebody to come down and sit and talk to them about diabetes health and how to better cook, because they have 2 medically fragile children and they're stressed the hell out because they have no idea how to cook, how they're going to get the money for it. And so all these things playing a part. But again, we're coming up with the ideas and none of this is impacting us. We have to ask them. They have to be at this table.
And they're lucky to have you as voice at the table, Kia. So I appreciate that.
Well, I will just say that I was expecting immediate pushback that, my child picked up a case of marijuana, and then I ended up on probation, because as part of our program that they're funding is to bring the parents to be involved with the child that is charged with the JD, with the delinquency. And that's the funding. And it's going to provide a guardian support group, family-centered therapy as part of the service that is offered to the child. So towards the end of the program, the parents have to be involved. Of course, they can't defeat the child's progress. There are certain limitations, but they are supposed to be involved. And through the triple P, they're told that you will be involved. And I was thinking that it was going to be more of this, I'm going to be on probation. But the first one we had, my probation officers told me that the mother started crying because she wanted to be involved with getting her child back. And she was glad to hear that she would be part of the family-centered therapy. And she was glad to hear that there was going to be a parent support group. So, I mean, sometimes we come in with preconceived notions and then we're like, well, that's not really what I thought would happen. And maybe everyone thereafter will be totally, I don't want anything to do with this. But if you can get them involved, whether it's through the triple P or what, which is pretty much your only mechanism as a trial court judge to get that done. I think what you're going to find is, or what I'm hoping we're going to find, if not, it's going to fail spectacularly. But what I'm hoping we will find is that the family actually enjoys and appreciates being involved and being part of the solution. Because ultimately, if they're not part of the solution, there will be no solution. Because you can put the child on probation and do all these services, but at the end of the day, if they go back to a home that is still using controlled substances for which they were placed on probation for, you're going to have gotten nowhere, right? Because they're going to be right back in that very same environment. Every member of this committee knows that. So you have to get those folks involved. Or at least that was our theory. And that's where we received the funding for. And I'm optimistic. And with the mother, the very first mother through the door, break down in tears because she was so happy that she could be involved with maybe her child getting better, I guess made me even more optimistic. But I felt like I had to offer that just because it took me about, I was surprised. I guess I was maybe not the optimist that I should be, but wow, and it goes well with what everybody else is talking about here. And I think it is a program that may work in other places too. I don't know. We'll see if we have success.
Well, I think the diversion group is offering to be part of that solution too by telling us about these programs that are doing good work, telling the other counties that here's what Ripley County's doing, with your permission, of course, Judge King. And so then those other counties don't have to create a program out of whole cloth, and that's more, time efficient for the application and so forth. So, all right. I don't know that we've heard from our public defenders today. Joel, anything to add?
So dare I share my internal dialogue? As we're all
Please,
talking about
please
this?
do.
No, this is all great stuff. So the thing that I'm thinking about right now is I'm trying to figure out what our role is in strategic response initiatives for hot topics that we know are happening and impacting lives. Are we going to wait for the local communities to recognize their need and bring it to us? Or are we also trying to identify needs? Because right now I know residential treatment opportunities, youth firearm possession, fentanyl use, teen suicide. Those are like overwhelmingly just spiking, skyrocketing problems right now. I don't want to blow it out of proportion. It's something that we can, deal with, but what's our role in trying to identify that and encourage the local communities to say, these are some of the things you need to be focusing your resources on. We have resources, come to us to, seek those grant dollars or whatever it might be to address these specific problems. Or are we just going to sit back and wait for the local communities to come to us and say, here's what our problems are? So that's what's going on in my head this morning.
So I'm going to throw this into Devin's camp. He's looking behind him, like, who's over there? So what I've seen in other grant applications through other sources are that they provide some examples. So, other communities are looking at XYZ issues. And so that might spark an idea for that county's looking at this grant application. So it may very well be that Judge Ripley has a program like this and Judge Graham over there saying, I have that same problem. I can glom on to his great work over there and do something similar. But I think issue spotting would be helpful, Joel. And so if your group can issue spot some of those things and feed those to me and Devin, perhaps in those webinars, Devin, we can include some examples of issues that other communities are looking at and looking to tackle. And then directing them to, once we get the diversion work group kind of guide of programs that are out there, it becomes more of a dialogue with the local communities as opposed to tell us what you need and we'll give you some money. It's, we're listening and here are some ideas from other communities if you need some ideas. At least that's how I see it from the broad view. Does that help?
That does help. Is there a potential for maybe a side group of, strategic response to, try to sort through what are the hot topics? Who are the experts that are keeping tabs on those topics that may need to come present to the Youth Justice Oversight Committee to kind of help us navigate what's going on?
What's the group think about that idea? So highlighting issues similar to the ones that you listed, so residential
Yeah,
placements, firearms, fentanyl.
More of a strategic
Yeah.
pinpoint response on things that are, our eyes are being open to. I think in the last year in Devin's wonderful reports on youth under adult court jurisdiction, kids in adult court spiked very significantly. And it's in large part due to firearm possession. So we have some data inputs coming in. Dr. Alsman's going to improve those for us and his team. So just a thought as to, do we, is there a subgroup that's trying to figure out what those points are to bring to the larger group, to seek out experts to come to us? And a part of our meetings would be, hey, here's an issue we need to be keeping our eye on. Here's the expert, here are potential responses.
I have a quick question with that. Is there a way for us as a state kind of convening? There's a lot of those conversations happening locally in Marion County. I can think of 7 off the top of my head that are trying to wrap their arms around gun violence, youth suicide. They're not talking to each other. They're each coming up with their own strategic plans on how to tackle youth gun violence and all these things. Do we have that, to your point of a subgroup, convening them so that there is a state plan to address these things instead of it happening in so many different silos, even locally? You know what I mean? Like there's one for opioids that I know about. San Franciscan Health talks a lot about suicides, particularly with young Black men, because that rose by 13% in 21 and 22. And so again, there's all these entities, right? The Marion County Health Department, juvenile probation, all of these entities talking about, they're trying to create these, massive conferences, but they're not working with each other. Do we have that in our capacity to bring them together?
So I would, first, I'm looking over here at Mark, the chair of the Children's Commission. So that would seem to be a logical umbrella that could perhaps feed some of those topic areas to us, but I'm just thinking aloud. Mark, what do you think?
And that's absolutely where the Children's Commission tries to focus, bringing all the state agencies and entities together across all 3 branches, bringing in legislative support on that. I can say, just as an example, we're currently investigating what our role can be with suicide and bullying prevention. So 2 of the big topics that we've talked about here, and how we can not create necessarily even new efforts, but get all the right people at the table together, make sure we're having cohesive discussions, how we can support that with better policy at a state level and pull that all together. So that's always something that, as you find those places where things just look disjointed, so lots of good stuff, but there might be a way that we can take that and elevate what's working better and use it as a model for others. That's definitely something the Children's Commission's always happy to
So I can send them
explore.
all to you, Mark.
All of them.
So let's talk about this, Mark, about how that dovetails with the strategic issue spotting. I'll just call it that, Joel. But I think that's a good point. And I will tell you that coming from the trial bench to the Court of Appeals this last year, I've been shocked at the number of appeals coming to me with young people killing one another. And so gun violence, I'm seeing it just as well as all of you on the front line are seeing it, and it's disturbing. So definitely something we need to take a look at. And the other issues that you mentioned as well. I mean, our kiddos are living in a different world today than any of us lived in.
I would say, Mark, give Dr. Alsma. IU has lots of initiatives regarding youth in Black suicide prevention, lots of initiatives around violence.
Well,
Indiana is fourth leading in the nation for teen overdose deaths right now. This is like a front edge issue, and we're getting calls from a lot of rural counties to connect teens to care, and there are hotlines available. We can give those to you. So yes, we need to coordinate and talk.
Anything else to add, Joel?
Oh, no, I don't think I have any answers.
Okay, all
I
right.
think this is something that we need to look into, though.
I appreciate it. How about Sarah, anything from DCS perspective today?
I think, I was thinking a lot about the parent engagement, right? And as we look at gaps for kids, right, recognizing that those parents were once kids who lived in a state where there were gaps in services and gaps in services that still exist for them today, right? And sometimes as a parent, well, parenting is hard. I don't know how many of us around the table are parents, but right, even when you have maybe more healthy kids and well-adjusted kids, like parenting is hard. And so, let alone if you're dealing with your own mental health issues that are going untreated, your own substance use issues that maybe you don't have resources for, domestic violence, those kind of things. So I just think about like the gaps that exist for our parents. And if we don't also recognize those as a state and fill those, kids aren't going to get the support they need to live in healthy environments, right? So that was kind of just my initial thoughts and takeaways on the work that we're also doing for parents.
Okay. Appreciate that. Questions for Sarah? Got DOE down there at the end of the table. Anything from our Department of Education?
No, I think I would actually kind of echo what Sarah just said about the parent engagement. I think that that's something we see a lot at DOE is just how are we engaging the whole family in the process and the parents and that support. So I think echo those comments.
Okay. Anyone else I've missed around the table with input? All right. I have connected with many of you individually. If any of the others that I have not met with would like to connect individually, I'm very happy to do that. Love coffee, so always glad to grab coffee somewhere. So just reach out. I'll give everyone my cell phone so you have access 24/7. I view my role in this team as sort of the person that puts the pieces together and makes sure that the connections are being made. And that's a much easier job when I have a team like this one. And so this is really exciting work to be doing with all of you. Going into wrap up closing, I will note that we do have availability of food service. So if you would like to continue what we've been doing with coffee, Danish, that sort of thing for breakfast, or if you would prefer to have lunch, a lunch buffet after the meeting and you want to stick around and break bread together, we could do that. So if that would be your preference, I'd like to hear that input from you. If you're, need to hit the road and get back to the office, that's another thing. But I do think that's an option, and I also enjoy eating. So if you would like to stick around and eat together, we could do that if you would like that food service available. Thoughts on that? Who here would like breakfast coffee to continue?
Fancy hard yes.
Coffee? Okay. So coffee, but not necessarily food. Is that what I'm hearing on breakfast stuff? Who would like lunch? Who would like to break bread together after the meetings? Okay. All right. So let's try that next time. So before the next meeting, we'll send out a request to RSVP so we know we have enough food for everyone that wants to stick around, and we'll choose something delicious, and those who don't sign up are going to be jealous. I'll turn to our staff members over here. They put in a lot of work, and I want to say thank you to all of them, and also shout out. Do you have input that you would like to add at this point?
We just enjoy working with all of you guys, so it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the good of the group? we are done early.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Being done or- Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, oh, this is get lunch. 2 hours space, you know. For someone that's driving in, it's kind of. I don't know. I feel pretty. I don't like that. That's not my thing. That's not my thing.